So in today's video, I thought it'd be fun to go over some common myths of being a professional photographer. Now I've kind of got a list pulled up here on my iPad so we can go over them. I find some of them kind of humorous, and we'll go over why it is that I find them kind of humorous and why they are just absolute myths. So if you're looking into possibly getting into a career as a professional photographer, these might interest you a bit and straighten out some confusion. All right, myth number one. You get to spend all day shooting. That is very far from the truth. As a professional photographer, you spend probably less than 10% of the time actually taking photos. I'm right in that boat that there in the beginning, I thought, I'm just going to spend all day in a studio just shooting photos. And that is the furthest from the truth. You spend the majority of your time doing clerical work, administrative work. It's a lot of stuff sitting at a desk, doing marketing, client communications, editing. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize that photographers actually do. You work your own hours. That is absolutely untrue. Your hours are completely dictated by your clientele. As a wedding photographer, I primarily work weekends. My weekends are pretty much gone. I'm working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then spending my weeks editing. I put in more hours doing this than I ever did in a corporate job. That is for sure. This is one of my favorite ones. You need the latest and greatest equipment to be able to make great photos. That is absolutely not true at all. Any photographer will tell you that it does not come down to the equipment. What really makes a great photo is a great composition and great lighting. Being able to understand the use of natural lighting, being able to understand the use of off-camera lighting. Equipment is definitely going to help in certain aspects. When I made the jump from DSLR to mirrorless, there was a huge advantage in being able to see the way that the photo was going to be exposed within the viewfinder or on the back of the screen, being able to preview photos through the viewfinder. A lot of things that helped, but it was nothing that was going to make my photos greater. You still need to understand the technical aspects of photography, and you can do that with a camera that's 15 years old, no problem. There's still a lot of professionals out there that are still rocking things like the Canon 5D Mark II, Mark IIIs. You don't need the latest gear to be a professional photographer. Here's one you hear all the time, especially from clientele. It can be fixed in Photoshop. So unfortunately, Photoshop came out in 1990, so it has been around long enough that the general public knows what Photoshop is, and they think they know what Photoshop can do. So you will hear that from clientele once in a while, that they just say, oh, you just fix that in Photoshop, not knowing how long it might take on certain fixes, or, there's a lot of different things you can do in Photoshop, but not everything is possible through Photoshop. But that is something you end up hearing a lot, and you'll figure out your own way on how to explain that to clientele that might not be a possible fix, or the amount of time that it actually takes within Photoshop to do some of those corrective fixes. It's easy to make a lot of money quickly. No, not at all. It definitely depends on the niche you're in and how long you've been doing it. There are definitely some product photographers out there who are doing six-figure shoots, but those six-figure shoots are something that they're relationships that have been garnered through the years. This isn't something that happens overnight. The guys that are making those six-figure incomes doing product photography, or even wedding photographers that are making over six figures, they've been doing it for a long time. They have built those relationships with different venues, different coordinators. A lot of your high-end wedding photographers actually have agents as well that deal with a lot of their booking. Photography is definitely not something that you're just overnight going to have success and make a ton of money. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of work, a lot of marketing, a lot of building relationships to be able to get yourself to a point that you can even have a stable income, which I use stable loosely because even a seasoned professional can have their ups and downs throughout the seasons. That it's just taking pictures. No, as I said earlier, a camera in your hand is the smallest part of photography. Your biggest parts of photography really come down to the marketing aspect of it, the networking, the social media. There's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on. I spend far more time in front of my computer doing the editing, doing networking, doing marketing than I do with a camera in my hand. You'll need to be able to create great photos in any condition. This one is a little true and a little bit of a myth. Um, yes, you need to be able to create great photos in just about any condition. Really, though, if you're a natural light photographer and you have stormy clouds, it might hinder you a little bit. This is also where I preach a lot about knowing how to use off-camera flash. When you know how to use off-camera flash, you can take a crappy light situation and turn it into a great lighting situation. You definitely need some help sometimes, maybe, but yeah, people think that you can just make magic out of nothing, but not so much so. You definitely need to maybe have some certain conditions. I'm not taking outdoor photos when it's pouring rain, but you sometimes do need some of the conditions to work out correctly. I actually had to postpone one here just recently because of the wind and the cold. And the reason that I did it, not so much the wind. I've shot out in the wind before, and you can definitely use it to help out with the aesthetic of the photo. But with the wind, when you have a lighter complexion, that wind and that colder weather can cause redness in the face, and that's something I'm just not going to mess with trying to fix. Here's one that I actually see a lot, and it's taking more photos equals better quality. At least that seems to be like this thought of some photographers. I see it all the time where they're just doing what we call spray and pray. Taking photos as like group photos or whatever, individual portraits, stuff like that, where they just have it on high-speed bursts and they're just spraying and praying. Definitely take the time to compose a photo. You don't need to sit there and, take 50 photos of the exact same pose, just kind of moving your camera around. If you understand composition and lighting, it only takes a few photos to be able to get what it is that you're looking for. And spraying and praying as well, it depends on the camera that you're using. If you're using a global shutter, using your electronic shutter, something like that, which off-camera flash, you can't use that unless you do have a global shutter. But yeah, that's something that I see all the time. I see a lot of spraying and praying. It always kind of makes me laugh when I just see somebody on a continuous and just firing away. That you have to shoot in manual mode. That is absolutely not true. The majority of professional photographers, in at least situations with mine, manual mode is going to be something that you're going to be using when you're using off-camera flash, especially in studio. But for the most part, during a wedding day, no, I am shooting in aperture priority. The majority of professional photographers are going to be shooting in aperture priority or shutter priority, depending on the situation. That you have to be a technical expert in order to be a professional photographer. You definitely do not need to be a technical expert to get started. I would say that you need to be kind of a bit of a creative expert. Creativeness is going to go a lot further than the technical aspect of it. Technical is something that you're going to pick up through the years. I don't even want to say years. You can pick up a lot of the technical parts of it fairly quickly. There is tons of information online that can teach you the technical sides of photography and how to use a camera correctly. But the creative part, you being creative and being able to see things in a way that other people don't see it, is going to go much further than the technical side of photography. All right, last myth that I'm going to go over, and it is that we make our full hourly rate. Now, with me, when it comes to weddings, making each wedding's probably about $2,500 to $4,500. Yeah, I am making that full amount of money, but everybody just assumes that I just made $2,500, $3,500 for 8 to 10 hours worth of work. They don't see the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes. When it comes to editing, things like Aftershoot have definitely helped cut down on some of that time with the culling and helping out with the kind of initial parts of the editing. But there's still a lot of time that goes into the editing. Before things like Aftershoot, you were looking at 40 plus hours of editing to be able to get a complete wedding gallery edited and delivered. And even before that, with me, I've got initial consultation with my clients. We have a lot of communication in between times where we're starting to build the shot list. And then I also do another video consultation about a month before the date so we can go over scheduling and the shot list and make sure that we have everything in order. And even just securing one of those couples, securing these dates, there's a lot of marketing that goes into it. There's a lot of back and forth with phone calls and messages, texts, all kinds of different stuff. There's just a lot of background stuff that people don't realize that goes into photography. Now, all of that, you know, when you divide it up with what it is you're getting paid for one wedding, it really breaks down. And then even the cost of, you know, your fuel, your hotel, all the different software that we use, repair for equipment upgrades. There's a lot of things that people just don't see or understand when it comes to professional photography. The bill might be $2,500, but that $2,500 is not pure profit. So there are some common myths that I have heard throughout the years. So again, if you're looking into professional photography and you thought that any of these myths are true, I hope that it's cleared up some of it and helped, you know, help you understand the different aspects of photography and what it is, you know. Our day-to-day work schedules are, you know, it's nice. I love it. I love that I do kind of get to make my own schedule, that I'm working for myself. I don't have anybody that I'm answering to. But I definitely do spend far more hours working now than I ever did in a normal 9 to 5. But I don't want that to deter anybody. It's an extremely rewarding career. It takes a long time to be able to get into a position that you are doing it professionally, but it is very possible as long as you have the work ethic and you just continue growing. You continue studying, continue learning how to market, learning how to interact with customers. Again, I try to post videos at least once a week. I was off a little bit here this last couple weeks because I have been very busy. I will try my best to continue posting videos, but as my wedding season kicks off, that does make it very hard to do. I'm hoping to make some videos where I take you along on some of my weddings so you can kind of get an idea of the behind the scenes, the way that I do things. Like and subscribe. Leave any comments below if you have any questions, and I'll try to respond to them.